Why do people leave the church? This is a question that has sparked much reflection, especially among those who feel an inner restlessness, a calling for something beyond what they find within a church or in the words of a religious leader. Have you ever felt that something about the structure of modern churches doesn't quite make sense? As if, even when you're there, there's still a missing piece, a genuine connection, that true spark that should guide spirituality. This feeling is common among those who feel a higher calling, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Throughout this video, we'll delve deeper into the reasons for this discontent and understand how it relates to the essence of those who feel called. We'll also reflect on what this restlessness might mean for your spiritual journey. We'll discuss the shift in focus that many churches have made, exchanging fundamental values like faith and devotion to God for excessive materialism and concern with appearances. We'll also explore what the Bible teaches us about the conflict between the spiritual and the material, and how individuals can strengthen their direct connection with God without relying on intermediaries or structures that no longer resonate with their souls. As we explore all of this, I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments. This is a space for us to exchange ideas, for you to share your experiences. Have you ever felt uncomfortable in a church? Have you questioned whether you were in the right place? If you believe this content could help someone going through a similar experience, please share it with them. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to be alerted of new videos. Now let's begin this important conversation. The feeling of disconnection is something that has affected many people, especially those who feel a deeper calling for genuine spirituality. For many, being inside a church no longer brings the comfort it once did. It's as if that environment, which used to serve as a refuge for the soul, has transformed into a strange place where something just doesn't fit. This feeling, however, is not a mistake nor a sign of lack of faith. On the contrary, it may indicate that you are evolving spiritually and becoming more aware of the energies around you. Those who are chosen have a unique sensitivity, an ability to perceive what is misaligned with divine values. Unfortunately, in many cases, this disconnect becomes evident in the way modern churches conduct their practices. The church, at its core, should be a simple space, a place of communion where people gather to seek, together, a true connection with God, guided by humility and sincere devotion. However, for many, this essence seems to have been lost over time. There is currently an excessive focus on appearances and rules that often have little to do with the teachings of divine love. Additionally, materialism has infiltrated spirituality in a troubling manner. Have you noticed how some churches have turned faith into a kind of marketplace? As if the value of one's devotion is measured by the amount he donates or how much he sacrifices financially. This does not mean that contributing to the church or the community is wrong. On the contrary, generosity is an essential virtue. However, when this generosity is demanded disproportionately or used to support luxuries and vanities, something is amiss. And those who are chosen perceive this clearly. It is natural for this kind of practice to create discomfort, a feeling that priorities are inverted. What should be a space of welcome and spiritual support often transforms into an environment that oppresses, imposing more weight than relief on one's spiritual journey. This reality leads many to question, is this really where I find God? Is this the place where my soul is strengthened? These questions are not a sign of spiritual weakness, but of strength. They are divine intuition showing that perhaps it is time to seek something different, something more aligned with the truth of the soul. However, this search can be lonely at first. Many people hesitate to admit that they no longer feel a connection within the church, for they fear the judgment of others or the feeling of being lost. But this feeling is not the end. On the contrary, it is the beginning of a new chapter in the spiritual journey. One of the dilemmas that lead those who are chosen to distance themselves from churches is precisely the conflict between true spirituality and materialism, which unfortunately has taken over many religious institutions. This is a delicate topic, but fundamental to understanding the reasons for this distancing. Spirituality at its core is something profound, a direct connection of the soul to God, without the need for intermediaries or secondary interests. But what happens when this connection is overshadowed by practices that prioritize the material world more than the spiritual? The Bible gives us a clear directive on this conflict. In Matthew 6:24, it says, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." This passage is direct and powerful, reminding us that the pursuit of the divine cannot coexist with an obsession with the material. However, when we look at some churches today, it becomes difficult to ignore the space that money has come to occupy within these institutions. Grand temples, leaders who flaunt wealth, and an almost incessant insistence on fundraising. This, in itself, wouldn't be a problem if the goal were, in fact, to serve the community, help the needy, and promote good. But in many cases, the priority seems to be something else: status, power, and luxury. For those who are chosen, this kind of environment is suffocating. They cannot ignore the discrepancy between the teachings of humility, love, and service that Jesus preached and the conduct of some churches. This contradiction creates a rupture, a misalignment that distances those who have a greater sensitivity to divine truth. And here is the essential point. For those who are chosen, faith will never be about appearances or possessions. It is about surrender, truth, and a sincere connection with the Creator. When this truth is replaced by practices that exploit fear, guilt, or greed, it is natural for the chosen one to feel out of place, as if that environment were no longer a home for his soul. This conflict is profound because it touches directly on our most intimate values. It's as if the heart says, "This is not right. This is not what I was called for." This inner voice is nothing more than your divine intuition, reminding you that true faith is simple, pure, and independent of structures. Don't mistake this rupture for a departure from God. On the contrary, it is precisely at this moment that many who are chosen begin a deeper search, without external interference or interests. If there is one thing they never lose, even when distancing themselves from the church, it is faith. This inner flame continues to shine and keeps them steadfast on the spiritual path. If you have ever felt this conflict between what the church teaches and what your heart believes, know that this restlessness is a sign of your spiritual awakening. When one who is chosen realizes that the church no longer nourishes his soul, the big question arises: now what? How am I going to connect with God? This moment may seem lonely, but in reality, it is a call for spiritual transformation. From the beginning, the connection with God has never depended on intermediaries. The Creator has given us natural tools for this: prayer, meditation, and inner silence. However, over time, traditions and structures have imposed themselves and obscured this simplicity. Those who are chosen with their spiritual sensitivity realize that God is not restricted to temples or rituals. He is everywhere, in the wind, in the sunrise, in the shine of the stars. Understanding this changes everything, as it reminds us that we do not need a specific place to connect with the divine. It is at this point that practices like prayer and meditation become essential. They are not merely ways of talking to God, but also of listening to Him. How many times have you sat in silence, simply listening to your soul? This process, however, requires introspection. By abandoning external structures, we face our own fears and insecurities. Although uncomfortable, This experience is liberating. Gradually, we understand that God's presence does not follow formulas or rules. He manifests in every moment, in every act of gratitude and compassion. For those who are chosen, this discovery is transformative. Spirituality becomes freer and more authentic. Prayer ceases to be a mechanical ritual and becomes a true dialogue. Meditation is not merely a habit, but a source of peace and clarity in the chaos of the world. And here's an important reminder: you are not alone on this journey. Many who are chosen are experiencing this awakening, questioning old structures and seeking something more true. This creates a collective energy, a silent but powerful movement of people who are rediscovering the essence of faith. For those who are chosen, practices like prayer and meditation go far beyond simple rituals. They become living pathways to finding answers, strengthening faith, and feeling the divine presence in a unique and personal way. Prayer, at its core, is a direct dialogue with God. It doesn't require fancy words or memorized formulas. It's like opening your heart to a close friend, sharing joys, worries, and hopes. The most fascinating thing is that in this process, it's not just about talking, but also about learning to listen. How many times after praying have you remained in silence, allowing the answer to come at the right time? God doesn't shout, He whispers. And it's in these moments of stillness that those who are chosen begin to feel His presence more deeply. Meditation, on the other hand, is like tuning the ears of the soul. In the fast pace of the modern world, it's easy to disconnect from what really matters. Meditation invites you to pause, breathe, and reconnect with what is within and around you. For those who are chosen, this practice is essential as it helps to silence the external voices and hear the only voice that really matters: the divine voice. Such simple practices carry a transformative power. When you dedicate a few minutes of your day to prayer or meditation, something within you begins to change. It's as if a light comes on, illuminating the darkest corners of your soul. And the most incredible thing is that by strengthening your connection with God, you also strengthen your own energy. That's why those who are chosen often radiate something special. It's not about physical appearance, but about an inner light that transmits peace and confidence, the result of walking side by side with the divine. These moments of connection also help to face the challenges of the outside world. When your faith is well-founded, the opinions and judgments of others lose importance. You understand that you don't need to fit into patterns or please everyone, because your true strength comes from something much greater. This path is not always easy. There are days when silence seems empty and praying becomes difficult, but God doesn't demand perfection, only sincerity. Even when words fail, He continues to listen. Just as a plant needs to be watered to grow, prayer and meditation strengthen the connection with the divine, bringing profound changes to the life of the chosen one. This transformation doesn't happen only within, but radiates to the world around. With greater spiritual clarity, challenges that were once insurmountable begin to dissolve, revealing an inner strength capable of facing any adversity. It's not about avoiding problems, but facing them with confidence, knowing that we are never alone. This inner peace is noticeable and inspires others, because the chosen ones carry an energy that can transform environments just with their presence. When a chosen one connects deeply with God, he becomes a channel of light. His actions, words, and even thoughts vibrate at a higher frequency, impacting those around him. Small gestures like a smile or a word of support can touch lives in unimaginable ways. It's essential to remember that this transformation doesn't require perfection. Being chosen doesn't mean never making mistakes, but rather walking with authenticity, learning and evolving along the journey. Moreover, this connection with the divine is not just a personal quest. The chosen ones have a greater purpose: to spread love, understanding, and light in a world that needs it so much. However, not everyone will be ready to follow this change. Some people will resist, whether out of fear, envy, or simply because they don't understand. But the call of the chosen one is to remain firm, knowing that his journey is guided by something much greater. It is this connection with God that gives him strength and courage to move forward, even when the path becomes challenging. As the chosen ones advance on their spiritual journey, they realize that not everyone around them will understand or accept their changes. This is one of the deepest challenges of the path, dealing with judgments, resistance, and often even rejection from people who once seemed to be by their side. This happens because when your light begins to shine more intensely, it also reveals the shadows of others. Those who are still trapped in patterns of fear, materialism, or lack of purpose may feel uncomfortable in the presence of someone who has found a deeper connection with the divine. Not because you have done anything wrong, but because your transformation forces them to see what they still need to change within themselves. At this moment, it is common for the chosen ones to feel isolated. Friends may drift away, family members may question their choices, and many around them may not understand their new way of seeing and living life. This can be painful, but it is also a sign that you are on the right track. Jesus went through something similar on his journey, being criticized, rejected, and even persecuted by those who did not understand his message. Similarly, the chosen ones face moments when they need to swim against the current, even if it means walking alone for a while. However, it is essential to remember that you are never truly alone. God is always by your side, guiding your steps and strengthening your faith. Moreover, there are other chosen ones around the world going through the same challenges. Even if you don't know each other, the spiritual connection between you is real and powerful. Dealing with judgments and resistance requires patience, compassion, and courage. First, it is necessary to be patient with yourself and others, as not everyone is at the same level of spiritual evolution. Some people will need time to accept your transformation. Next, compassion becomes essential. When facing criticism or incomprehension, remember that these reactions often come from fear or ignorance. Responding with kindness instead of anger or resentment can turn these moments into opportunities to plant seeds of light in the hearts of others. Being chosen is a journey of faith, and this means trusting that God has a greater purpose for everything you face. Even in the most difficult moments, when it seems that no one understands you, keep your head up and move forward. Your mission is too important to be abandoned because of the opinions of others. These challenges, however painful they may be, also bring valuable lessons. They strengthen your connection with God, increase your confidence in divine guidance, and teach you to depend less on the approval of others. This does not mean becoming insensitive, but rather learning to prioritize what really matters: your spiritual truth and your divine purpose. As the chosen face challenges like judgments, resistance, and misunderstandings, they begin to perceive something very deep. Each obstacle is actually a piece of the puzzle that makes up the greater purpose of their existence. Nothing happens by chance. God allows you to go through these situations to prepare you for what is to come. The journey of the chosen is not random. From the beginning, you were called for something greater, something that goes beyond the material and touches the spiritual. But for this purpose to manifest, it is necessary to go through a process of purification and strengthening. Just as a diamond is polished by pressure and friction, each difficulty reveals even more the brilliance that exists within you. And what is this greater purpose? It may vary from person to person, but it is usually related to helping, inspiring, and guiding others. The chosen are not here just for themselves. Their mission has a collective impact. Perhaps you have already noticed that people seek your guidance or comfort without knowing exactly why. They feel your energy, your wisdom, and your light, being naturally attracted to it. Often, the chosen are like beacons in the darkness, illuminating the path of those who are lost. However, to fulfill this mission, it is essential to be aligned with your essence and with God. It is precisely here that the challenges faced along the way become the greatest lessons. Each rejection, each doubt, and each difficulty make you stronger, more resilient, and more aware of your role. Moreover, your impact goes far beyond what you can perceive. Your words, actions, and even thoughts create waves of energy that spread and touch lives in unexpected ways. A simple gesture of kindness or a word of encouragement can transform someone's trajectory, even if you never know how much it meant. Fulfilling your mission does not mean living without difficulties. On the contrary, the chosen often face greater challenges than most, precisely because they have a fundamental role to play. But with each obstacle comes also divine grace, which strengthens and guides you to find and fulfill your true purpose. Keeping your connection with God always active is essential. This means setting aside time for prayer, meditation, and reflection, seeking to align your will with the divine will. When you do this, you begin to realize that the answers you seek are already within you. You just need to hear them. And above all, remember, you are not alone on this journey. God is with you at every step, guiding your paths and opening doors where before there were only barriers. He chose you for a reason, and everything He started in your life, He will surely complete. In the journey of the chosen, it is not uncommon for moments of great difficulty and darkness to arise. This happens because as you advance spiritually, you begin to touch deeper and more intense energies, and consequently, the challenges also become greater. These crises are tests that reveal the true degree of faith and resilience you possess. When everything around you seems to crumble, when circumstances get out of your control, and the weight of the world becomes overwhelming, it is at this moment that you are called to look inward and discover a strength that you may not even have known you had. This is the true struggle for light. Many times in the midst of the storm, we may feel that God is distant or that our faith is not enough to endure the trials. However, the truth is that in these moments His presence is closer than ever, not in an obvious way, but in the small intuitions, in the inner comfort, and in the invisible support that sustains us. Adversity teaches that faith is not just believing when everything is going well, but fully trusting even when everything seems to fall apart. Being chosen means understanding that your mission is greater than any temporary obstacle. And when this truth becomes clear, your faith is strengthened because you understand that nothing can prevent the fulfillment of the divine plan. During difficult times, it is essential to remember the importance of daily prayer and meditation. These moments of introspection are not just spiritual rituals, but opportunities to reconnect with the divine, seek inner strength, and renew your mind and heart for what is to come. Faith does not mean absence of fear or doubt, but the courage to move forward despite them. Each step taken in the darkness, guided by the inner light, brings you closer to your spiritual truth. Each moment of resistance is a chance to strengthen your connection with God and your divine purpose. If at any time you feel that you are lost, that the weight of difficulties is too great, or that loneliness has become unbearable, find refuge in your spiritual practice. Prayer does not have to be something elaborate or complicated. Often, simply opening your heart and talking to God with sincerity and trust is enough to bring the peace you need. Furthermore, remember that the chosen are called to be beacons of light in the darkness of the world. This means that in many moments, your energy will be tested, your faith will be challenged, and your love will be put to the test. But the good news is that each challenge also brings the opportunity to illuminate the path for others and be a source of hope for those who are lost. Therefore, when adversities arise, face them as a call to deepen your faith, strengthen your spirituality, and remember that you are part of something much greater. Each difficulty is a chance to witness the greatness of God's love and show the world that, despite all the challenges, you will always find strength in His presence. The journey of the chosen is, without a doubt, full of challenges and moments of solitude. However, one of the greatest blessings of this path is the possibility of building a spiritual community. When we connect with those who share the same mission, the same light, and the same search for the divine purpose, an immeasurable force arises. It is through this union that the chosen become even stronger. When one of us stumbles, there is always someone to help lift us up. When doubts arise, it is this community that reminds us of who we are and guides us back to the path. In moments of difficulty, we find support in each other, reinforcing our truth and our mission. Therefore, it is essential that the chosen unite, share their experiences, and strengthen each other. Being surrounded by people who understand this journey and share the same purpose makes the challenges lighter and the walk more meaningful. Here on the No Spoon Philosophy channel, we are forming a community of light, a space for those who understand what it means to be chosen, who face the same challenges, and who are willing to grow and support each other. If you feel that you are part of this journey and believe that your mission is greater than any obstacle, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Together, we can go further, stronger, and more united. Because the journey of the chosen is never lonely. It is shared by those who are ready to illuminate the path. Let's awaken and get out of the matrix together. Ending the Matrix broadcast.